Hello. Um, can you hear me? Are we audible? Derek, Kwame,
Yes. Yes,
confirm.
we can hear you.
All right, thank you. All right, so good evening, good morning, good afternoon, depending on where everyone is joining in from at the moment. Thank you once again, and welcome to today's edition of Cambridge Technology and AI, powered by Ride.ai. I'm Kwame, your host for today. Welcome you to today's webinar on the ethics of artificial intelligence. And yeah, I'm delighted to have Kwame, our speaker here today. Who's going to answer a lot of questions on our minds. In the last couple of webinars, we've addressed mainly technical issues, but with this particular webinar, we'll address the topic that is behind uh, everyone's mind. We've had AI moving on, driving autonomous vehicles, helping us do almost everything. And the question I think most of us ask is, what are the ethics, behind these black boxes for most people? Are they fair in their decision makings and so on? So this and many other questions are going to be addressed today by Kwame. I'm sure we might probably not be able to answer all the questions that we have, but I'm convinced this is definitely going to be a good start. So before we kickstart some house rules, if you have questions while Kwame is presenting, please write them in the chat. I think halfway through his presentation, he's going to pause and address all the questions that are in the chat. And I think he's going to leave about 10, 15 minutes before the end of the meeting to address any questions. In the meantime, if you're unable to join on Zoom, we are streaming live on our YouTube channel, and you can also follow us on other social media platforms, Instagram, etc., for more information on technology and AI. So without spending too much time, I'll pass on the mic to Kwame, our guest speaker for today, and I think he'll do a better justice introducing himself. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Kwame, and your team for having me this afternoon from my side here in Atlanta. My name is Kwame Owahini Echampon. I'm a final year doctoral candidate here at the University of Georgia, where I study qualitative research and evaluation methods. My scholarship explores the intersection of artificial intelligence, public policy, program evaluation, specifically with regards to the implications of integrating AI for ethics and trustworthiness. So today I am going to share with you some insights on why AI ethics matters and how we can navigate it responsibly. Like Kwame rightly said, I think now everybody knows that AI is efficient, it professes so much gains, but the question on people's mind is what are the implications for the broader society and stuff like that. Right? So I intend for this to be a very interactive session. So before we start, I want us to, have a quick poll about AI and then use it as a warm-up to enter into the conversation. Please kindly pick up your phones and then just, share your thoughts on the poll. There is no right or there is no wrong answer. So I think the poll will be showing on your screen right now. So you just answer yes or no to the questions you see on the screen, and then we proceed thereafter. Okay. So I'm waiting to see your responses to the poll. But whilst we are waiting for all of you to take the polls, I think that the conversation about AI ethics, to be honest, is a very broad and big one, uh, which perhaps cannot be fully exhausted in a 30 minutes or 1 hour session. But what I've tried to do in today's presentation is to try as much as possible, to summarize the key points and the common recurring themes across, various fields, just to, spare our thinking about these ethical issues, and then perhaps to inspire you, to think about it broadly as you go into your various organizations and your daily life, right? So, yeah, excellent results I'm seeing from here. Interesting. There's no wrong or right answer, like I said, but maybe later on towards the end, we can come back to some of these responses that I'm seeing here.
I think we have 3 more people to go. About 66% of the people have voted, so 6
It's
more.
fine.
I
think even in the national election, we don't have full turnout. So
exactly.
it's understandable that for such a presentation, you might not have full turnout. So I think now we can, those on the back end, if you can just roll out the poll, and then we can proceed with the substantive presentation. So I'm going to share my screen so that we see my slides. Derek, can you roll? Okay, let's see the results of the polls, maybe. Derek?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, maybe. Okay, let me just, maybe you can collate the results and then we come back to it later, but I'm going to stop sharing the poll
Definitely.
so that we go into the substantive discussion. Right, so please confirm if you can see my PowerPoint slides.
Yes, we can, Kwame. Yep.
Okay. Okay, so I think I already did my introduction, so no need to bother you further with my profile. But you can, reach out via my email or drop me a message on LinkedIn if you have any further questions after this presentation. So these were the questions that we just, attempted to answer. So I think that it's only fair that I try to, bring us into a consensus of what artificial intelligence is. I know most of you already know about it, but just to, refresh our memories about definition for artificial intelligence. So according to a renowned scholar in the field of AI, Russell and Novick, artificial intelligence basically refers to a range of technologies or machines that can compute how to act effectively and safely in a variety of novel situations. It is often used broadly to encompass things like machine learning, natural language processing, and other algorithms. Now, the idea of ethics basically refers to a set of moral principles, values, guidelines, frameworks, or standards used for distinguishing between what is considered to be acceptable and what is not considered to be acceptable. So if we put these two definitions together, then we can arrive at a conclusion that AI ethics basically refers to a set of principles, guidelines, frameworks used for determining what is deemed to be acceptable or unacceptable in the design, development, deployment, and governance of AI systems. So ethics basically, or ethics of AI basically, is a multidisciplinary concept. It draws ideas from the field of philosophy, computer science, social sciences, and other fields. Now, the conversation about AI ethics have become important in our days because there's no question about the fact that AI is here to stay. There is also no question about the benefits that AI can offer to us in these days. But the question is more about the implications on society. So we think of it in terms of the widespread integration of AI into organizational systems and everyday decision-making processes that you apply for a loan at the bank, and then now AI is going to decide whether you are worthy to be given the loan facility or not. You apply for a mortgage, and AI is also going to help determine whether you should be given the consideration or not. So the question that comes up then naturally is about value alignment, since AI themselves do not possess the ability to make judgments about what is considered to be good or what is considered to be bad. Then there is the issue of anchoring bias. So basically, the idea of anchoring bias is that because you are now using AI and then you give a prompt and it gives you like an instantaneous answer, you are tempted to believe that whatever answer that the AI is giving you is right, or it kind of changes your thinking about whatever problem or situation that you are confronted with. So that originality in your thinking, is lost because of anchoring bias. The second part, anthropomorphization, basically is got to do with the tendency for humans to believe that AI is probably equivalent to a human, or put so much trust in the AI system. And then, like I said earlier, the broader consequence of AI decision making on broader society and then common values. In the world today, many societies believe in ideals of democracy, freedom of speech, transparency, and so many of these, commonly held social values. How does AI, shape all these values as we embrace it in our generation? And then lastly, because there is limited know-how about, what constitutes ethical AI, what does not. And then at this particular moment, the regulatory regime seems to be very, lapsed, because it's still early days here. So everybody's trying to navigate the muddy waters, which makes it even the more complicated. So what world leaders are saying basically about AI ethics, that is that yes, as a human society, we have come through various phases where we have come to the realization that inequality and inequity in society is not good, because historical processes have shaped our daily lives, that some tend to enjoy certain privileges that others do not because of the lack of effort or any such thing, but because that some people, by virtue of how society or the social processes have shaped them, tend to benefit from the sharing of public resources than others. So the UN Deputy General Secretary, for instance, had said that we cannot allow all the benefits and opportunities of AI to be concentrated in the hands of those who are already way ahead. So that would imply that we need to adopt collaborative approaches that align responsible development with solutions that would respect the diversity of cultures while promoting locally generated data. So going into the literature itself, I think as far back as 2019, Jobin identified that there were as many as 84 different ethical principles and guidelines across the landscape, because many organizations and institutions have come to the realization that yes, AI is good, but we also need to think about the broader consequences of implementing AI within society. Now, the problem is, and I suppose that even by now, the 84 would have jumped up to maybe 100 or over, because from 2022 coming, there's been so much interest in AI, spurred mostly by the introduction of ChatGPT by OpenAI. And so I'm thinking that by now we are moving somewhere around 100 or 120 even. But basically what is happening now is that every institution or organization is trying to develop its own set of guidelines and frameworks to guide the integration of AI into their organizational systems or context within where they work. So it will be a difficult task to try and go through all the 84 plus or 100 plus different ethical principles. But I think that a review of all these principles comes down to four common features across them, that the ethical issues, occur across four dimensions, namely the features of the AI systems themselves, inherent weaknesses in the AI or human factors, and then the algorithm, the data application, and long-term risk as well as deployment. So basically, in terms of the features of AI, it comes down to the decision of developers about what to include and what not to include. And then the inherent weaknesses has got to do with the fact that there is no perfect AI system or perfect machine learning algorithm. Whichever choice that you make always has consequences, and you have to forfeit certain items of the menu. And then as we use the AI systems, user trends tends to compound in the algorithms. So the data itself that we are using to train the algorithms, one, they've gone through social processes, they've been shaped by how we see the world as a people. And then as we use it to train the data, to train the algorithm, and people start using the system, over time, the system also, adapts to the commonly occurring threats from the user behavior. And then through the deployment of the AI systems, the people making the decisions, what and what not to include in the systems. Basically, these ideas draw from the work of the Belmont Report and the Nuremberg Code of 1974. So basically, the Belmont Report refers to a situation here in the US where a team of medical practitioners wanted to do a study to try and arrive at the vaccine for syphilis back in the days. But the problem, however, was that they went into a predominantly Black community and then disguised the motive of the study that they were doing, and then infected some of the respondents with syphilis, and then used the other one as a control group. So basically, they infected one group with syphilis and then left the other one with Dutch, and then tried to run series of tests to see, the issues that were coming out. So that's like a randomized control trial situation. Over time, because one, they considered the true motive of the experiment that they were doing, over time, all the people that were originally infected with the syphilis started dying because one, they did not receive any medical, care from the team that had infested them with the syphilis in the first place. So as a result of that and more, then the US government, constituted a committee, to find out and then recommend possible pathways for action. So the committee, in order to ensure that such incidents do not repeat in the future, proposed a set of 3 principles basically about respecting the people that you are working with and beneficiaries, and then ensuring that there is justice in the way we go about our work. So these principles have basically informed the idea of AI ethics. On its own, AI ethics basically have added one aspect to it, which is explicability. We will explore that in the later stages of the presentation. Now, we come down to the common themes that is occurring in AI ethics. These are all situated in the field of applied ethics just for your purposes. So the themes that are commonly occurring, it's got to do with fairness or justice, transparency, trustworthiness, safety, autonomy, responsibility, and other things. But then, because there are so many organizations trying to implement their own set of ethical guidelines, a closer examination of their respective frameworks and guidelines will show that sometimes some of these themes are interpreted differently depending on the organization to suit their own internal operational purposes. But then if you examine it carefully, you see that they hover around these commonly occurring themes that are put on the screen. And then also you realize that there are 3 different categories that the ethical issues, permeate, basically to do with the individual aspect, societal aspect, and environmental aspect. So it's quite broad, like I said in the beginning, but just for the purposes of this presentation, and also to avoid information overload, I've tried to summarize it across the 3, commonly occurring areas. That is the individual level, societal level, and then environmental level. For the purposes of today's presentation, however, I think that it's only fair that we zoom in on the societal level, considering that at the moment, that is the topical issue across the globe. That is not to say that the other domains of individual and environmental levels are not important. They are equally important, and they come together to make the conversation, worthwhile. I'm only zooming in on the societal level, for the convenience of time, and so that we can have a more, focused, discussion. So the commonly occurring issues in the society at the societal level is about fairness, responsibility and accountability, transparency, surveillance, controllability, democracy, and stuff like that. But these are commonly, abbreviated as FAIT principles. The F standing for fairness, the A for accountability, the T for transparency, and then the E for explainability or explicability. Alternatively, you can say fact. Fact meaning fairness, accountability. So the CCC you see in there is for the double C from accountability, and then the T will be transparency. So just in case you find it difficult remembering all the specific issues, just remember the abbreviated versions, and then you can do justice to that. So now we are going to explore each of these themes and see what is constituted therein. And then we later go to the issues that these present. So we start with fairness. The theme basically seeks to ensure that AI outputs produce impartial outcomes for all and sundry, to ensure that the outputs of AI systems are equitable and that no one is left behind by AI decisions. As a result, people have expressed different ideas about how to ensure fairness in AI systems, but the most common pathways that come up is mostly through technical or engineering solutions, that is trying to bring it into things that can be coded into the algorithmic systems. So when it comes to the technical solutions, these tend to use a lot of quantitative techniques, that is measurable metrics, and the common methods that are used are disparate impact, equal treatment, predictive parity, and stuff like that. These predominantly rely on causal and counterfactual reasoning. And then afterwards, the other thing that is used to ensuring that the processes have been fair is to conduct a post-deployment audit by, checking that the right processes and due procedures were followed in coding fairness or using technical approach to fairness. So the issue that comes up with the fairness component is that we have very diverse or heterogeneous contexts, which makes it difficult to determine what exactly is fair for each group of people or category of people. There is also the issue of intersectionality. Intersectionality, as originally put forward by Kimberly Crenshaw, is the idea that as individuals, we tend to have overlapping social identities. What are some of these overlapping social identities? One, it could happen for explanation purposes. Assuming you are born into a rich family, being born into a rich family automatically gives you access to people of influence, and you are likely to associate with people of your same kind, meaning that you go into elite schools, you are going to places, exotic destinations. So the people that you are interacting with, or how the social processes shape your daily life, is different from somebody that is born in a very poor background. As a result of that, the person is not able to have access to any powerful connections or friends, tends to go to a very poor or under-resourced school. So eventually you see that all of these things will come together, and you realize that because of that intersecting identity, somebody tends to have a lot of privileges as compared to somebody that is coming from a poor background. This is just an example. Intersectionality occurs in so many domains of our daily aspects. So just to get you started about the idea of intersectionality. Now, the other issues that comes up with the fairness is that, do we fix the issues before deploying the system, or we deploy the system and then we fix it afterwards. These are two different perspectives on fairness that have come up, and it's dominating the discussion. Each of these have implications. For instance, if you do the a posteriori one, that is fixing the issues before deploying, especially with the data. Now, what it means is that we would have to do some manipulations in the data set to ensure that the biases that are contained therein are mitigated before we deploy it. So what that will mean is that we are sacrificing accuracy to fairness. If we choose to uphold fairness, it means that we are also kind of manipulating the system, and so the data cannot be said to be a true reflection or an accurate reflection of society. The other option is a priori solutions, that is AI ethics that we are talking about. How do we go about it? At the moment, everybody seems to be in a fix regarding which is the best way to deploy AI in an ethical manner. So these are some of the cross-cutting issues with fairness. And then the measurement metrics that are used in coding fairness or the technical approaches to fairness, these tend to be reductionistic in nature because it is difficult, as a matter of fact, to consider all the complex social processes that goes in. And so what it means is that they have to kind of reduce it to a measurable spectrum. A measurable spectrum means that using tools and instruments that they deem fit. And usually these things are informed by how you see the world, your understanding of the world fairness. That is how you are going to, develop it in the system. So we will come back to these issues and discussion later on. So, but now we will proceed to look at the issue of responsibility and accountability. The idea of responsibility and accountability basically is about delineating liability pathways for resource generated from the AI system. So it means that assigning well-defined people that in the event something goes wrong with the system, we can hold responsible for whatever that has occurred. That is the idea of responsibility and accountability. And the justification is that as professionals or as individuals, in our day-to-day jurisdictions, we are assigned with specific roles and responsibilities that we know that, okay, I'm responsible for that, so I take charge and all that. So if anything goes wrong, I am supposed to address it. So that is the fundamental idea with responsibility and accountability in AI ethics as well. The pathways for achieving, responsible or accountable AI as of now basically is got to do with establishing or institutionalizing institutional advisory boards and then having codes of conduct, creating specific roles and assigning specific responsibilities, outlining standard operational procedures, behavioral expectation and penalties and stuff like that, training and sensitization programs on ethical AI issues. Now, the issue that arises with this particular team is that there are different organizational values in the first place. There are also different organizational hierarchies. So in the event you are working for a big firm, and then your boss assigns you a responsibility, or you are deploying an AI system for an entity that is outside your immediate work environment. In the event something goes wrong between the two organizations, who is going to fix it? Is it from the developing company or is it from the client and stuff like that? So these are some of the issues. And then these naturally bring up questions about legalities between the AI companies and then enterprise users. And then, of course, there's always going to be the issue of the lack of enforcement mechanism. So now we proceed to look at the issue of transparency.
Kwame, sorry.
Yes.
So we just hit half of the hour. So it's usually
Oh, okay. So speed it up.
No, it's usually around this time where we pause to address, some of the questions that have already,
Right.
been submitted. And then, leave a couple of minutes for discussion as well before we proceed. So there are a few questions in the comments. So the first one is from Anna, and Anna's question is, Anna is actually drawing your attention to a point you made earlier regarding the Tuskegee syphilis study. So I think you mentioned that the participants were infected.
Right, but
with
so
syphilis. So
the core idea was that the Tuskegee, the Belmont report was to ensure that we don't do any harms in, experimentation or when we are working with people. So I just kind of try to give a little bit historical insight about some of the harms that had supposedly occurred from. So it could be right that indeed they did not infect, but the idea originated from the Tuskegee syphilis. So pardon me if maybe it came out wrongly. And then I think I see we often say AI makes biased decisions, but AI is trained on human behavior. And yeah, it's a very brilliant question. So I think that Sahim, the issue now is that I think all over the world, governments now acknowledge that there is an issue of inequality in their society. And as a result of that, that's why government introduces policies that are supposed to help lift those that are underprivileged and make them better off. So how does this translate in real life? So you realize that in places like Europe, there are welfare schemes for people that are from underprivileged society. In practice, it means that government may give you like what we call like a warehouse, welfare housing. That's where you are paying low monthly rent because you are supposedly underprivileged as compared to somebody that is in a particular income bracket or earning higher than you. So the issue of inequality, because of inequality, that's why the issue of AI has become topical because yes, we recognize that humans are biased, and it's because of these biases that we want to ensure that it doesn't happen that people, the biases that people, demonstrate in our daily life are being perpetuated through this AI system. Because what it means is that it is only the people that we like or we care about that are going to benefit from the system that we deploy. So basically, yes, it is acknowledged in that regard. And then, okay, so these are the two questions that we have so far.
I think that was a very brilliant question from Sahim, and to add to that, I think that it boils down to the question, what is the yardstick? What are we using as our point of reference? If we as humans, when we have to make the decisions, are not fair.
So I think that, Kwame, I think that in order for us to have a very, focused discussion, I rather want us to just hold on to some of these questions
Right.
until when I get to right.
Mm-hmm. Right. I think that's the last one. So you can, are there any questions? Should we proceed and then towards the end, if you have any questions, you can drop them in the chat and we'll address them towards the end. Kwame, thank you. Yeah.
Right. So now I think we had come to the point of transparency. So basically, transparency is about making honest, disclosures about the mechanisms we need AI systems. And like Kwame said in the intro aspect, these AI systems, for the most part, operate as black box or opaque systems, which makes it difficult to see exactly or understand how it's arriving at certain, decisions that it makes. So transparency, as you all know, has become a common democratic principle in modern societies. So we just want to know that, okay, how did the system arrive at this particular decision so that we know that whether the outcome was fair or not. That is the idea. So the common pathways here is also basically about making information available about the various decision-making processes that went in there. These days also, it's been suggested that probably we can provide model cards and data statements that will accompany the particular system that we are deploying so that people will understand the context within which the model was developed and how you can use it appropriately. And then, of course, the regulatory frameworks and standardization processes that are coming up, but these are still very abstract ideas because as of now, there's no common framework. Everybody's doing his or her own thing. Right. So the opaque nature comes up, and then the lack of a common framework and standardization and limited AI, expertise. Now, the last aspect of the common recurring themes is about the privacy and autonomy. So it's basically about protecting user rights and safeguarding against, unwanted exploitation of, personal data. And as a matter of fact, to make it more succinct, I think one of the issues that have come up in recent times more to do with the 2016 Cambridge Analytica incident here in the United States, where it was alleged that Cambridge Analytica harvested user data and user online behavior patterns to manipulate the outcome of the US election. And then I think these days on our day-to-day, usage of our smartphones, you tend to see that you try to shop for a particular item online, and then after you were done, a day or so after, you see all sort of advertisements about the same product showing up on your device. So is there something that the AI companies or the people beneath these systems are not telling us? So it's basically about safeguarding us against unwanted exploitation. So it's also supposedly supposed to be achieved through regulation and data privacy laws. For instance, the EU GDPR, and then now the recently enacted EU AI Act, and then giving users the rights or the consent to opt out of user agreement. Thus far, the EU GPDR and then the EU Act seems to be one of the comprehensive frameworks that kind of outlines specific expectations towards pathway. But then still, it's still lagging behind because one, the scope of privacy is still very, ill-defined because there are aspects of our life that is not so much private. For instance, when you hit the highway and you are going, and then you are driving past a surveillance camera, how do you say that, okay, I do not want my information to be captured by the surveillance camera? So these are some of the cross-cutting issues that have come up. So fairness, accountability or responsibility, transparency, privacy. I think that these are the commonly occurring themes whenever AI ethics at the societal level are mentioned. So for those of you that may be interested in reading more about these commonly occurring themes, I think I have some book recommendations from Buolamwini. There is also Zuboff, and then there's also Kate Crawford. These scholars kind of try to use a layman's explanation, for some of these issues. So if you are interested, you can try and read some of their work. So now we come to the issues that this existing ethical framework presents for achieving responsible AI. I think just last month, Musk Grok AI chatbot was in the news for the wrong reason, spewing anti-Semitic slogans and calling itself a Mecca Hitler. There is also a very popular incident about an algorithm that was used for predicting crime rates here in the US that apparently, was very biased towards people of Black descent. Recently, I think just yesterday or the day before, this issue about Meta's AI rules allowing their chatbots or their bots hold sensual chats with kids and offer false medical information have also popped up. And then Microsoft's boss in charge of AI has also raised concerns about, the risk of AI chatbots fueling psychosis, making people tend to believe more in the capabilities of the AI systems than they are actually are. And this is an old age incident where Google mistakenly, tagged Black people as gorillas because the classification system that was used in building the particular algorithm. And then the infamous Amazon incident where an AI system that was supposed to help in recruiting employees ended up discriminating against female employees. So now, because of some of these examples, the question becomes that are these common, themes in AI ethics enough to ensure that we achieve responsible AI? I want to believe that clearly these instances show that the existing teams or frameworks for achieving responsible, AI probably is not the best or have excessive loopholes that makes it necessary to think about it in a different context. And then I think recently in September of 2024, the state of California here in the US had wanted to introduce a bill that will make AI companies fully responsible for the safety of their products. So in the event things went wrong with any of the systems that they deployed, the AI company was going to be held accountable or responsible for that, but that did not go through. So now, what does that mean for the field? As a result of some of these weaknesses and limitations, some scholars have suggested that the AI ethics as it exists now is perhaps useless because they lack clear, paths for operationalization. Some say it's toothless because there are no solid enforcement mechanisms. And then the reason why they are saying this thing predominantly is because that these existing frameworks are relying so much on, procedural ethics, where they are focusing on auditing the processes and the procedures. As Becchioni makes us understand, Becchioni alleges that originally the idea of auditing has emerged from the social sciences was about ensuring social justice in the distribution of social resources in terms of housing and other things. So it was meant to give voice to the poor and vulnerable in society. But over time, however, it came down to, it was reduced to measurements, metrics, using metrics to measure how things were occurring in society. But in its original format, it put a lot of emphasis on participatory methods. It put a lot of emphasis on the involvement of the community members to ensure that they have a say. But instead of the original purpose, now it has shifted and it's relying so much on metrics. So as a result of these things, the issue of intersectionality also comes again, because ever since Bolan-Whinney drew attention to the issue of intersectionality, some people have suggested that intersectionality be used as a yardstick, for fixing some of the limitations with AI systems. But even so, a few outstanding areas that remain that needs to be, clarified. Mittelstadt and other scholars have also positioned that the principles alone at the moment cannot guarantee AI, ethical AI, in the sense that these are basically like trying to draw on the principles from medical ethics, which is an entirely different, field on its own. And then Hagendorf then confirms to say that blind spots in AI ethics makes it very vulnerable, especially when you consider that for more of these AI companies or tech companies, the considerations about ethics, it's a secondary requirement to what they do. So what it means is that in the process of deploying the system or building the system, the conversation about ethics is not immediately on the table. So now, what does that leave us? What these trends or these insights is showing is that, one, there are issues or several issues with the state of AI ethics as it exists in the world today. And these issues stem mostly from the state of the world, like Sahin suggested that biases are part of human culture, yes. But if we look carefully, we would have to realize that, one, biases or how we see the world and our preferences emerged mostly from our orientation in life, our cultural orientation, how we were kind of, groomed to see the world. So culture, to the most part, shapes how we see the world. That's our ontological position. It shapes what we think is the right way of, generating knowledge, which is epistemology. And all of these things coalesce together when it comes to building an AI model or deploying an AI model, because you need data. The data is a reflection of society. When you input the data into the model, and then you have people come to use it, and it goes around that particular. So that is the state of the world now. So at the crux of the matter is the issue of culture that is informing our approach, to building the AI system, the choices that we are making, although we don't explicitly, acknowledge these things. So culture, for the purpose of reference, is got to do with, our shared beliefs, values, and the things that essentially makes us who we are as individuals, as an organization, or as a broader society. And you would agree with me that these things tend to vary from society to society, or from organization to society, which makes it essential for us to, pay a closer look at it. So that is to say that the current technical approaches to AI ethics probably is not the best, because it relies heavily on notions of measurement, which emerges from the idea of Western science, of objective science, which is more like a Western ways of knowing, Western epistemology. And then the overemphasis on distributive equality, which assumes that, okay, we are all equal, and so we are applying a common criteria for everybody. Like I pointed out earlier, it is also reductionistic, because it kind of forces us to see the world in a very linear or even narrow way, which really is not what the world is about. The world is much more complex and complicated than that narrow approach that we're using. Because of the social, and political dynamics involved in society, that makes our world very complicated and complex than it appears. And then, of course, every knowledge, or every pathway to generation knowledge or data is situated in a particular point in time, or a particular culture. That the Western hegemonic views, for instance, like I said, emerges from the Western way of knowing how the people in the West see the world. And as a result of that, there is that tendency to think that, oh, this is the only way of knowing, or this is the only epistemology that there is. But indeed, there are other different forms of knowing, and we need to make a conscientious effort to find out other ways of knowing in different cultures, in different contexts. So Nguyen is one of the renowned authors in the AI ethics literature. So she concludes that complex judgment has been replaced with clear and explicit rules. Algorithms were initially intended to make were not originally intended to make information machine calculable, but instead to keep in labor, to replace highly skilled workers with to replace highly trained specialists with low skilled and replaceable workers who could simply execute an explicit set of rules. Based on this, how do we move forward, realizing that the current frameworks or the principles that are being pushed forward in the AI ethics, are ridden with some shortfalls and are not perfect as it appears to be. So from the picture that I'm sharing on my screen, you can see there are two faces of the same image, if you like. The first one is one probably exists currently in the field in terms of ensuring fairness, or approaches to ensuring fairness in AI system. The dominant approach, which is parity and attributes, and the disparate impact, all of these are intended to ensure equality in the AI system, or to ensure that the AI system distributes the system equally. Now, what happens with an AI system distributing the system, the benefits equally is what we have, the scenario in the first picture, where the various complex and complicated social processes that shape individuals' life are not taken so much into consideration because we assume that, uh, let's apply an equal criteria for everybody. So you see here, everybody is given the same platform, and then still the short guy is unable to see what's going on in the field. So the question is that what we want? I want to believe that that is not what we want. So the suggestion is heading towards, okay, how about we consider equity? Equity in this instance will mean that, okay, we need to take into account each and every one and their capabilities and how society and the social processes have affected their circumstances in life, and then probably we try to create a level playing field. Level playing field means that we recognize that this guy is probably short, so we need to give him enough support that will enable him see the field effectively. And then because this man is already tall, probably he doesn't need so much, support to see onto the field. So the idea now has been that then we need to move away from the reliance on the technical approaches to ensuring that AI systems are fair. We need to move from technical approaches to what is being called socio-technical approaches to ethics. So socio-technical approaches then would imply that we need to consider the broader social effects of whatever system that we are deploying. So we are not saying that the technical approaches by themselves are not good enough. But in addition to the technical processes, we need to pause and think about, okay, what will this group of people or this particular country or this particular area make of this particular concept or this idea that we put in here? So then the idea that is coming up or emerging is that we need to adopt a culturally responsive or cultural responsiveness as an ethical framework for AI system in the design, deployment, and application. So the idea has come through various phases, originally emerging from the work of Norman, who is a very renowned design thinker who urges the need that when you are designing systems, you need to take into account the context that you are deploying. And then also Pineda also adds to Don Norman's idea and then pushes forward the idea of culturally responsive design. Much recently, Lukashik and Lukashik have then kind of put all these ideas together, realizing the shortfalls in the current approaches to ethical AI, and then is pushing forward the idea of cultural responsiveness as an ethical framework for AI systems. So what does that mean, or what does that look like? So it is essentially a call to embrace the ethics of care in AI design, deployment, and application, recognizing that as a development team or people in charge of AI systems, we have the power in making the decisions about AI. So the ethics of care basically means that we need to think about people or try to put ourselves in the shoes of others who are not or who may not be immediately at the table that we are seated on or at the places that we are seated in terms of the decision making. That is it all that we need to consider in the making this decision. This really matters because if you look at the tech field, particularly one of the issues that come up is that it tends to be very male dominated. So for instance, you are deploying an AI system for that's supposedly to be used for women, and then the team of engineers that are building the system probably does not have a woman in it. How then is it going to be properly aligned to how feminists see it? So that's the idea that okay, uh, ideally, maybe in the design team try to make it very inclusive as much as possible, try to have people of different backgrounds at the design team or the design stage. But in the event that is not even possible, probably you can look at stakeholder groups and see how best maybe you can build consensus or kind of run the system by them to get some immediate feedback about how they see it. The power bit is very important because as individuals and as professionals, the specific roles that we play in society automatically gives us power to make choices, to make decisions and stuff like that. So without an explicit recognition that as an engineer or as a product development team, we have some power which we may not be immediately aware of. We may, look past some of these things and then embrace whatever that is. So it basically comes down to one, decentering power dynamics, making sure that, okay, yes, we have the power to decide, but does that mean that if it is okay by me, it's going to be okay by everybody out there? So then that naturally will bring up, okay, so then how would it, sound across people of different cultures? So then now you are looking past your own immediate environment to consider people that may not necessarily be in your immediate environment. And all of this we are doing or we are encouraging to ensure that the deployment and the application of the AI, systems are equitable or at least get close to, that equitable. That is the second scenario in the picture. So some of us, based on our knowledge and insights, we consider cultural responsiveness to be a necessary competence for the age of AI, considering the issues of biases that has come up all over again every now and then. So I think that is the key things to take away from this presentation. So at this point, I will take any questions that you may have. Kwame?
Wow.
Hello?
Amazing presentation, Kwame. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Very enlightening. There are some questions in the chat.
Okay.
Oh, I think Anna had a question. Yeah, so Anna said, are you gonna read it yourself? Let me read out loud so the people on YouTube as well can see what we're talking about. So Anna says, it seems to me AI ethics is very procedural and seems to me to be similar to engineering ethics. This is in contrast to a rather richer and more varied approach that medical ethics tends to take, giving more space for complexity. Only a tiny part of medical ethics is the four principles that I think you mentioned. So perhaps there is more scope for cross-pollinating of AI ethics with more traditional approaches to ethics. With that, she means medical ethics, philosophical bioethics, in addition to more policy-oriented approaches of today. And that's a question. Yeah.
Well, that's a very brilliant submission, Anna. And I think that is where the field is now, heading towards to, where, there is that realization that an over-reliance on, technical ideas of ethics it's not enough. So now there is that urge to have that multidisciplinary approach to the issue of AI ethics, where we have people from, computer science, look at it from the point of view, for those of us from the social sciences, from broad area of disciplines, because now, obviously, with the stage that AI development is getting to, these issues, perhaps the engineers or the computer scientists alone cannot address it on their own because most of them have just their limited knowledge. So then it's like, let's bring all hands on deck and see how best to resolve the problem at hand. So yeah, with the field is heading towards that multidisciplinarity, and now I think that the call is for people from diverse backgrounds to kind of share their perspectives on how they think that we can arrive at an ethical AI.
All right. Thank you so much. I hope another question was answered. So there is another question from Sahin. Sahin says, And I read, I understand that AI currently magnifies our flaws in a way that is magnification in catastrophic. Magnification is catastrophic. Example, morally gray persona chatbots, AI-induced psychosis. Yet humans in this role have been manipulating, exploiting, and misleading people long before AI. Isn't the discomfort of those headlines about AI actually a discomfort about our own values being exposed? And shouldn't we not just only work on AI ethics, but also combine and link this to our own human ethics?
That is a very brilliant submission, Sahim. And I think I don't know if I can fully answer you, but I think that so the state of the field then is okay. There are those that believe that okay, I mean, this is what it is. This is how the world really is. So let's just leave it as it is. It has got to do with the accuracy issue that, well, I'm only building a system to kind of reflect how the world truly is. So in that case, if there are any inconvenience or if there are any things that are uncontactable, you can't really blame me. It is just a true reflection of society. Talk about free speech or freedom of speech and stuff like that. And it's the more reason that these days, you have companies like Meta and you think Rust also kind of rolling out the idea of content moderation. They have basically canceled the idea of content moderation because they feel like, well, there is that freedom of speech component, and the system is only reflecting what it is. Now, how I choose to see it is that what we need to realize is that yes, it's a reflection of human values, but the power that AI systems are giving to these tech companies or to a few people on the globe now makes it the more worrying for us to now start asking questions about the values that are, being built into this system. Because for the most part, most of these people behind the development of these systems are capitalists. They are in it for the profit, right? And if somebody is in it for the profit, one, it becomes easy for they to manipulate the system to their advantage. And if we on the sidelines, we are not really paying attention, then it becomes, very, very worrying because whether we like it or not, indirectly, we are already within their, their grips because we have our phones, we have smart devices, we are we're virtually surrounded by various forms of manipulation, right? That if we don't push a critical eye, towards what they are doing or what goes on into the development of these systems, we may find ourselves at a very, comfortable end of the spectrum.
All right. Thank you for that answer, Kwame. There is another question here. By the way, it's 3 minutes past, but please continue to stay with us if you would like to, if you have questions that you'd like to be addressed. And I think Kwame doesn't mind, staying a bit longer to address some of these questions.
Right. So
Yeah, so
Anna,
there's one question from Anna. Yeah, so
right.
Anna
So what is the goal
says,
according
let me
to
read
you?
so folks on YouTube can get to another question as well. So Anna would like to know, so what is the goal according to you, Kwame? And then also equitable deployment or benefit?
Right. So I would say that I stand on the margins of both, knowing very well that one, if we go towards equitable deployment, there is that risk of, sacrificing accuracy for fairness. And then if we go towards equitable benefit, there is that also threat of maybe manipulating the system, to ensure. So I am on the borderlines, but I think that the core idea is for us to bring ourselves to that space where we realize that these systems or these current, frameworks are not bulletproof against things going bad in the AI systems, and that we first need to, apply a critical awareness to the AI system by questioning how things are being done in there, how it's being deployed, and how user trends and stuff like that are going to, affect that. And then in our day-to-day interactions with the AI system, for instance, in this era of generative AI, in the event maybe you're having to use generative AI for analytics, when you sit behind it and it's giving you particular, analytical results, then you start asking questions about, okay, so what does it mean for people within that? What does that mean for people in these different contexts? That is the focus of, my work and the kind of work that we are pushing in the field.
Thank you once again, Kwame. I have 10 questions in mind plus, but
You
for the
have
sake
what?
of time, I have 10 plus questions in mind that I would
Oh
like you
my
to answer. But for the
God.
sake of time, let me just push this one in before we call it a day if there are no further questions. So, in your view, Kwame, what is the biggest ethical risk of AI today?
Undoubtedly, the
That
issue
that
of
we are
fairness.
not paying attention to.
Yeah, undoubtedly, that's the issue of fairness.
Hmm.
Because, like I rightly pointed out, or let me just give you another classical example. Here in the US, for instance, one of the stories is that Amazon uses your area code in determining how soon or how fast you receive your orders online, right? So what it means is that if you live in a supposedly rich neighborhood, then the assumption is that, oh, these people, they need their stuff and it has to be delivered, or they are priority customers. So
Right.
we need to deliver it to them, as soon as possible. And then if you are like somebody like me that lives in the ghettos, it means that they are going to, keep you on the waiting, right? So for me, the biggest risk is fairness, particularly for those of us from the global south, considering that the AI systems for the most part are being, designed and deployed from the global north.
Right.
Uh, right.
Right. So I think that was the last question. Are there any further questions? I don't see anything in the chat. So on that note, Kwame, I would like to say massive thank you. Beautiful presentation. We enjoyed it. I learned a lot coming from a technical background. I think it's a
I
breath of
see
fresh
Anna
air.
has another question, no?
Oh, okay.
I see her hand is up.
Okay, so Anna.
Or is it a goodbye?
No, it came. I haven't seen Anna's hands up. I'm not seeing it. Oh, Anna
Oh,
was
okay.
clapping. Wow, thank you so much, Anna. And thank everyone, for staying back and contributing. Those who were able to ask questions, those who couldn't. If you want to catch up or follow up on Kwame's work, I think we'll send his details. Please follow up in our meetup group. And yeah, thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Bye.